And welcome back, everybody, to week 5 of CCL over here on the Bravo channel. Coming up here, we got ourselves, myself, Mick, along with old Prosper. You know him, you love him, and he's here back and better than ever, baby. So, how are you feeling here today, Prosper?
I'm feeling pretty good, man. I'm always excited to see more collegiate matches unfold, especially ahead of the end of split number 1. And split number 2 is right around the corner. You heard from Cornmeal as they were signing off of the first match of the evening. That playoffs are quite literally right around the corner. I mean, right around April. You got to make sure that your calendars are really marked down. You want to make sure you're following the CCL Twitter because there's a whole bunch of different things that are about to be shaking up. And with this matchup that we have for the second one of the evening, Mick. This has a lot of good implications on the line for what these two teams might look like in the future.
Yeah, and I completely agree with you. I've sat there. I've already casted for Iowa at one point, but the matchup we're looking at overall today is Bethany College Blue. So, and then we also got the Iowa Hawkeyes. The Hawkeyes, they're only running one team, but that just may mean they have a little bit more compressed talent going on here because they don't have to allocate it so thinly. So overall, I'm super excited for these maps. I'm excited to see what both these teams bring to the table as we got, these teams going in the next split coming up here soon. Overall, just really excited to see what's coming up overall and see these guys duke out and shoot each other and see who's the best.
Yes, these are within this team. These teams, rather, within the North Central region and the AIM division itself, too. This is actually the last matchup for both Bethany College and Iowa Hawkeyes. So you know that they're already solidified themselves as a top 5 team. So they're going to be going ahead along with number 2 Ottawa Black and number 11 Uni Gold, of which you just saw play earlier on the Alpha stream. They will be then traveling and converging inside of one different other split to join the likes of number 23 Illini Blue, who is at the top of the other division, just opposite of this one here. But it's interesting to say the least, because now it's really just what can you offer versus these top teams. And neither of these two teams are on the top 25 leaderboard. So it just really comes down to what kind of damage can you offer in the late game ahead of playoffs? How can you really cement yourself going forward as one of the top dogs, not only within this region, within all of CCL, with playoffs just looming around the corner?
Yeah, and I completely agree with you. How these guys, it's their last match of the season. We got everything going back and forth. Hopefully, they bring it to the table for the split 1, split 2 playoffs, everything going forward. Hopefully, they can save the best for last. So hopefully, we see a grand finale here for split 1 from both of these teams. See a really good back and forth, get a real showing out of these guys, watch them really duke it out. And it's overall just see them really go head to head and try and show who's the best. And it's going into the split 2, show what they have to compete and get ready going forward because the competition only gets tougher from this point.
Yeah, I mean they've already faced themselves quite amount of stern competition already. Like I already had said, they had number 2 Ottawa Blackway, which both of these teams had faced. Obviously, this is the last matchup within this split for these two, and well, one of them we'll just say was a little bit closer than the others, but they were pretty much blowouts within their own self too, and even within like this whole central area of collegiate Call of Duty within its own self, just from north to south within all of North America, there is just so much competition. And yeah, shark infested waters. You're absolutely right, Mick. But hey, just to break down this matchup more for you all, you can see the map set above our heads. We're going to be starting off with Raid Hardpoint here, and this one is very interesting because, like I was just saying, how both these teams had face off against this Ottawa Black roster. Iowa Hawkeyes were one of those teams, but they've only scored 10, I believe, seconds in total versus the likes of Ottawa Black on this map mode combo. Not that you can really take anything against for what it is against Bethany College within this matchup here, but we're probably in store for a very, very good matchup. Being able to see this team already play a handful of hard points itself, not against Ottawa Black, but I mean, Not Toxicity it was one of those members, along with Kranz, that's always going to be able to pinch it in towards the likes of the middle of the map, really be able to force their way inside of the likes of BCSW Blue and really command the pace for these rotations and cement themselves for these holds. And that's exactly what you want to see for this Raid Hardpoint.
Yeah, and bringing up that Raid Hardpoint, talk about the likes of Ottawa Black. I know these guys have faced them already, but I mean, you can't really put too much against them. I mean, we're talking about Ottawa Black here. We're talking about both Ottawa teams. I mean, they're just a force to be reckoned with. So you can't really hold too much against them for that. I mean, even any of us casters, we can sit here and talk all day about it. We can sit there and talk about the maps, about the matchups, things like that. But even if you throw us in there against these guys, we're not going to be able to hold too much either. I mean, they are a force to be reckoned with. But maybe today, looking at these two teams and with the way they're stacked up against each other, this could be a lot closer because even looking at the KDs of all these guys, everything's just seems to be a little bit more closer to each other. There seems to be an overall pretty close average with like how the medians and everything are stacking up. But we do have two overall standout players. For Bethany, we got Lawson at a 2.58 KD for this hard point, and we got Crayons running 2.03. So overall, we got two guys who have solidified themselves well enough within this industry to bring us a match that we're really looking forward to. And overall, just looking at Raid as a map, we all love it. We all know it. We've all played it at some point in time, especially if it's not in Black Ops 2. We're going to see it plenty of times here in Cold War, as we've seen through all these map selections. These guys just love choosing this map because, it's so familiar. It's like home for them. So overall, looking forward to this hard point, I'm super excited because, these respawns really show what these teams are capable of in terms of how well their intelligence carries them. Because, in Search and Destroy, you have those easy picks. You can play the elimination game and get it knocked out and get it going. But in these respawn modes, that's really where you have to sit there and factor in, I need to find these spawns. I need to find the point. We got to find a way to infiltrate these guys. And it really just shows team communication overall. And that's the most exciting thing about these.
Yeah, and you get to see that all the way through the entire map set. You can see it Raid Moscow. Garrison is your guaranteed first 3 maps, and if we have to play Moscow and Raid again, we will for Hardpoint and Search and Destroy. And what that really screams is for your SMGs and your flex players just to be able to shine on through. Yes, obviously throughout all of these maps, your ARs can shine on through when you're thinking about Bedroom, just in Raid within its own self-top laundry, when it does come down at Search and Destroy for map number 5, whatever it may be. But your submachine guns are going to be the make or break players. Again, when you're thinking about breaking inside that A Search and Destroy site for Moscow, when you're thinking about commanding the rotation from 3 to 4 on Raid Hardpoint, because it's so long, if you can get your submachine guns in those little tight knit places to be able to break inside money early and get control of basketball court soon after, well, that's going to be a much easier go ahead of things for your team. And that's what I feel like is what's really different, the biggest difference in a lot of these teams for College COD, Mick, is that the SMGs, if they can just go all Wile E. Coyote and just go off on a tear by their lonesome, then they can really set themselves in a very different league of their own, although being in the same division with some other high-ranked teams.
Yeah, and as you mentioned with those SMGs, they're a huge play, especially on this Raid map, closing in all those super big hotspots. Well, we got to see how they manipulate those hotspots overall because, those ARs, these SMGs may be a force to be reckoned with, but overall ARs, they can't be ignored. That's why we usually got a 2-2 split going, because they're so important to win those long-range gunfights, establish your team's control, and get those early picks and not even let them in close them where they have to encounter those SMGs. So, especially, I've been in the color cast position myself, and, I know we got it switched up a little bit this week, but I still got the information up in the old noggin talking about, 0.3 to 0.4, but instead, I feel like we're just going to see it in action here as we're loading into the map with a Raid Hardpoint, and overall, we're just going to see how these teams do overall, and we're just going to see them duke it out.
Say what you will about Raid Hardpoint and what Bethany College have done. They are 3-0 on this map mode combo. Again, going up against the 1-1 Iowa Hawkeyes. Their one loss, of course, was to Ottawa Black. Still 6-2 overall for Hardpoint altogether, but as soon as we load inside of Raid Hardpoint, we will go ahead and bounce back out. One player did not join us inside of this map mode combo, but even still, as far as a head-to-head, the tail of the tape, if you will, 2 Hardpoint, 75% win percentage for Iowa Hawkeyes overall to the 7-3, 70% win percentage for Bethany College Blue. A very close dynamic between these two teams, Mick. And I think even if you go on College COD for the website, even for what we're sitting here looking at for our own stuff and what we're in store for, can only be imagine for how close it truly is. It's not only on paper, for what we are about to have on our screen.
Yeah, and everything, you can sit there and bring up stats all day and go back and forth, but every single week, when it really comes down to you have a whole new team every week. It feels like when these guys, they go in the VODs, they look at the reviews, they find out what exactly have I done right, what have I done wrong, and they're spending this whole week in between each of these matches trying to improve themselves and show that when they get closer to playoffs and the split 2 and things like that, which is the stage we're kind of getting into, we see whole new kinds of plays come out. It almost feels like the season is like a constant going game of rock, paper, scissors. Instead of a best of 3, it's like a best of, 25, to where we're sitting there hoping overall we're getting a different result every single time. We're seeing some counters come in. We're seeing some back and forth here and there. But, we can bounce back and forth all day. And these guys can bounce out of the lobby, but they're going to go right back into it because it looks like we're loading back into this, hopefully with all 8 players connecting this time around.
We'll have to wait and see too, and it's just very interesting again as the ahead of the couple weeks. Just a few more other divisions and regions have to play their final few matches of the first split, and this North Central is one that I have personally had my eyes on. I've cast out a lot of matches for the B and the A division now, and to be able to see the shakeup, including Illini Blue, Ottawa Black, Uni Gold, Iowa Hawkeyes, BCSW playing with CUW Esports as well. I mean, that just really gets the arm hairs standing up straight here, Mick. But it also gets me, the arm hairs standing up straight is a good raid hard point underway, starting off on the favorite side. It will, in fact, be the Iowa Hawkeyes, but and Cranston already inside one of those very powerful positions. Get an AR inside top laundry can help your player's position on the hard point. Soak up some good time, but be careful how far you push up because you're going to get some flip spawns. Cran does read that. We'll be able to get a few kills and starting off really strong our Iowa Hawkeyes.
Yeah, and we saw Crowns, pushing up there, doing a really good job getting both those picks right there, right off the bat. But speaking of right off the bat, we had those 2 frags right off the bat. We had 2 Simtexes getting a trade out on each other as these guys are fighting for point 1. We see Freeze establishing himself on point, trying to retaliate this as best as possible, get some more points on the board and establish these teams' lead. As he gets picked off, and we see the guys kind of switching it out, BSCW not letting that happen as well as possible, as Biz is going to be watching top laundry right here, trying his best to hold that down because it's such a big hot spot, and these guys just kind of waiting it out here, playing a little bit slow here in the beginning, right after we had that huge conflict right up front.
Playing for the very long pinch. I mean, Deep 6 is on a very deep flank. It finally pays off. We'll find 1, 2, and 3 for them, but P2 has popped. This is where you can find a lot of good time. Ooh. BSCW are here. Big 2K does come out, and they're going to be able to flip out spawns for Iowa Hawkeyes. They're going to have to try one last time to break in with 35 seconds remaining.
Yeah, you mentioned it earlier, speaking about those SMGs, Taku going in there with the double kill, just clearing out that kitchen, it looks like. This man, usually we all in our house, we like to clean the kitchen, but Taku's doing it with purpose here with that AK-74U, just clearing things out here. But, BCW, they close it out right here. They're getting the points on the board. They're establishing themselves on the second point right now, showing that these close quarter engagements are a super huge threat for these guys because we already see Freeze back here in Garage trying to establish themselves and get Iowa the next point down as best as possible because this point is huge right here, but Taku's still not going to let that happen. Pick him off with that headshot as we're going to see a lot of trades going back and forth with these, but we're going to see, BSCW closing themselves out really well and just finding this next point almost effortlessly, it looks like.
Yeah, big heads up play to just chalk and immediately rotate all the way through the middle of the map. They split the spawns up by Iowa Hawkeyes again. So the initial time is going to be good again for Bethany College here on P3. They're dealing with the respawns wonderfully. 35 seconds left to play again. And even if Iowa Hawkeyes find themselves breaking inside this hill, which they will do successfully, Bethany College, again, they can just play through the middle of the map. They can play through exits because, again, the rotation from 3 to 4 is a very long one. And that's why Not Toxic is already trying to rotate through bedroom. They will be cut down. But as soon as you make your way over towards P4, you can set yourself up for a solid early 40 seconds if the opening gunfight goes your way.
And we already see Loss and these guys trying to close out this, look in that middle of the map over there on the other side near pillars and things like that to kind of close it out right here. But Not Toxic isn't going to let that happen as he's going to get a pick right there on stairs. Keep on trying to push up, but Crown's going to go ahead and opt for go for his nice little swim to try and get to that next point, get himself a little refreshing dip right there. But overall, Crown's still making that push right here, trying to push up with that XM4 right here, getting these trades, but these guys really doing well as they're going to try and find this new because BSCW, they're doing a great job overall finding those points right off the bat. Iowa, surprisingly, finding ways to break this pretty easily, especially looking at P3. They all rushed through Jim, it looked like, and they successfully did that. Usually you don't see that. When you have an upfront kind of 4-guy push, you usually allocate all your teammates over there. You sit there and try and close them out, stop that whole push from coming in, and, encourage a little more tactic going around that second time when you're trying to push through. But we see Bethany doing a great job just holding this down and really just getting the points on the board just in case P5 doesn't go their way.
And P5, again, this is where so many teams all the way up to the CDL level have closed out for games and have also choked their closing out moments. Now, given we are still in the first set of Hills, it's been very competitive between these two teams. Again, the setups for both of these teams have been broken up a handful of times, and here comes another setup for Iowa Hawkeyes, much on the previously, but streaks have been earned. Cruise Missile also have coming on in for Taku. He's able to find 2+ a teammate. That means that the break's going to be good early for Bethany State, but that, as soon as I say it, the respawns coming in immediately for Iowa Hawkeyes will be dealt with. And a little bit of time going over towards the game clock here, Mick, but so far so good as far as ahead for a P5 hold for Bethany.
Yeah, speaking about Bethany, these guys are doing a great job, especially with Taku just going off, grabbing these kill streaks, and closing it out. We saw that 3 of the Iowa Hawkeyes were down at 1 point, so that leaves a man just kind of sitting back because he's not going to do all that work himself to clear all these guys out of the point. So, they had a little bit of breathing room, but seemingly giving it up at 1 point because we now see Freeze back on the point trying to hold it down by himself. All these guys getting on Iowa, getting ready for that P1 once again, setting themselves up, trying to get all these picks going back and forth. As Crown's going to close this out, get ready for that next point. And Iowa already being there, Bubs, getting shots all over the place, and Freeze setting up across the way. Also just, cornering these guys in like animals in that mid. Bethany not sure what to do in this situation as their spawns just kind of now rotate, allowing them a little bit more space to work with.
Yeah, it's just like you say. I mean, if you're looking at this from the Hawkeyes perspective, you wanted to keep all of Bethany trapped inside of the center of the map. Ataku, here comes the last bit of their streaks. Artillery Strike only claims a teammate's life, but it bought enough space just for Taku alone to make their way into Spiral. This actually forces out a spawn flip. Whether or not Hawkeyes were in control of P1 when the spawn flip happened, I'm not entirely sure how the formula came out to be, but Bethany, they have the close response for P2. And now Iowa Hawkeyes, they have to read this in crayons. They do find themselves a couple of kills. They have some help here with Freeze. They got to hit their kitchen. They got to be able to block these spawns. They are successful. They do not want Bethany to get too comfortable. That's where a lead started to get a little bit built. But again, ahead of P2 for a second go-around, things make so competitive between these two teams.
Yeah, and speaking of competitive, we see Taku already being competitive. He sat there, got both kill streaks off, clearing out those points on multiple occasions. I'm just surprised Lost hasn't gotten a streak yet. This man's going 22-18, really throwing himself down, as well as Crayons, doing a really good job here, going 21-13. Probably sitting there telling his team, all right, boys, let's get some more gunfights here because I want to keep winning. I want to get some more points on the board because they're finding themselves at a lead of 154. But right now, it's kind of getting threatened by Bethany because we see 3 of these guys sitting up around this point. We see Biz getting in close with Freeze here, not exactly being able to close it out because, once again, Crayon's just pushing in there, doing a great job, but Taku isn't going to let that happen as he retaliates and gets a couple more kills here. And they want to shut him down because they don't want to give this man 2 more kill streaks to work with, but they're already looking at possibly going for this next point because, as we know, Garage, it's a big one. It's a big point overall, and it's also huge when it comes down to that scoreboard because, you get into a lot of fights here. You see a lot of back and forth, and the spawns are really important here because you can sit there and spawn right by Garden, right next to it, and that's huge if you're trying to find this point here.
Set up again early here for Iowa Hawkeyes. You don't want to get broken up early, but Taku comes immediately in. The swarm is out. Spawns are close. Iowa Hawkeyes trying to hold on strong. And kills are just a little bit too strong. And Bethany, again, they break Iowa Hawkeyes set up again. It has been 20s for 20s. Back and forth again, Iowa Hawkeyes. They have one more attempt. Los pushes up through the middle of Zig. They're able to find a couple more kills. And this will now zone away Iowa Hawkeyes. And they might just have to chalk this. You already have spawns close to Tiki here. You might just have to play for exit kills and just set up for P4. But Bethany, they're past that sweet 200-point margin, which means they can always just play for that ending if they're given for the scrap time, which looks like Iowa Hawkeyes, they will just give over towards Bethany. One more strike, one more good break is all Bethany need to close out the game.
Yeah, and I completely agree with you. Looking at these guys, I mentioned it earlier, looking at Loss and trying to get those streaks going in here, and he's got 7 kills on the board now. So this man's going crazy right now. He's looking to sit there and use those eventually because when we see that they're at a 227 to 165 right here, Iowa getting a little more points. Loss has plenty of utility to work with now as we see that Predator missile coming in. Artillery strike, getting him in right there, closing out Bubs as Bethany's going to move back onto this point. Doing a great job by Loss, using that utility to their advantage, trying to close this out as best as possible because they got 38 seconds and they can easily win it out right here with a 239 to 173 overall as these guys are going to keep on continuing getting the kills. And Biz getting a little bit more, valor there at the end because the man's been slacking on kills here a little bit, but he wants to make sure to get a little more stats on the board before this match ends.
Even the cruise missile's not good enough to get your way inside the point. Bethany did not have numbers close enough, but they're staring down the barrel of another break attempt coming on through. 3 quick kills. 10 seconds remaining inside the hill. 7 seconds are all that they need. Iowa Hawkeyes are spawning out towards Laundry. Last ditch attempt just for a touch. Bubs, we'll be able to touch. You got to stay alive here, brother. Keep dancing. Be able to do it. And now P5. 2 seconds are all Bethany need.
Yeah, and I think, looking at this, it's probably just closed out. Taku sits there and gets 2 kills right there, just frags the man off, allows themselves free breathing room here on the point, closing out this first match here. Great job showing by Bethany, great showing by Iowa, but looking at these guys like Taku, and just overall just getting these kills and Lost getting those streaks as well, overall, just these guys are fraggers. They're just going off. Overall, it's something that's just threatening overall, and going forward, especially in Search where you only get one life to work with, they're going to be huge targets going forward.
Yeah, I mean, they are high rolling and balling through the entirety of Raid, at least after the first set of hills. You go back at least even through P1 and P2 through second set of hills, we were giving 20 for 20s, and then most of the time, like 15, 20 seconds was going up to the game clock. That's how the first set in P1 and P2 through the second set ended up going. And then when Iowa Hawkeyes finally started chalking last bit of 20 seconds, when Bethany started fighting their way in, they kept on trying to get initial setups, and initial setups kept on falling through. Bethany, through 3 straight hard points, broke the initial setup for Hawkeyes. And although they did end up working their way back in there for, I don't know, what felt like 15 seconds at a certain point in time, Bethany already had about 40 seconds, and they said, all right, that's great. You just gave us another rotation. Iowa Hawkeyes, they were just untimely when it came down for their control for the hard points. And when they did have themselves in a very fortunate situation of being able to stack a decent amount of time, they got broken up very quickly by Bethany. And you saw how those streaks just even play through. Although they didn't get all the kills in the world, sometimes killing off a couple teammates, that's what having resources for one team ends up looking like, when how a snowball could potentially roll down the hill, even when it's a bright sunny day on Raid Hardpoint. So that's done and dusted. Moscow Search and Destroy is on the horizon for these two teams, and Iowa Hawkeyes are hoping for a bounce back here versus this team.
Yeah, and just talking about snowballs, I don't feel like we saw too many in terms of the point right here. We saw a lot of back and forth, which is really good overall. But I think some of these teams, they just didn't lock down the rotations like they needed to. Hawkeyes, they had a lot of startups there, and so did Bethany. It seemed like everything was kind of like a half and half, and there in the end, once Bethany started getting those kill streaks, that's when they started saying, all right, you can get on this point, but keep in mind, we got these kill streaks to work with. We can push you out of here, and we can play with this whole map like we want to. Because, we can sit there, we can pull out our tablets and sit there and shoot off as many rockets and artilleries all day. And, you can get on the point as much as you want, but we have those resources. Meanwhile, y'all don't. So, going forward, in Search and Destroy, that's not going to be as much as an issue, but I think we're going to have to see a little bit more slow play from these guys, and I feel like they know that overall, and that's what they're going to prioritize, because especially on something like Moscow, being a little bit more spacious, just like Ray, but having a lot more close quarters, we are going to see a little more of that SMG influence when looking at those bomb sites with how kind of close quarters they are. We see a bomb over there in hotel and things of the likes of that. Being in such an enclosed room with so many like close quarters engagements, as well as over there on the other side in Courtyard, and by Eskies, where you sit there and have these like little lineups. They're never really too far out if you can line yourself up right. So, these guys, they just sit there and need to focus on kills this time around because, getting that bomb down, looking at the series so far, there hasn't been a lot of plannings from what I've seen, because it seems like these guys are really just trying to close these rounds out, get on to the next one, and try and close this out so they can, get to the VOD review, get ready for next week, and have more time to practice. So, overall, just a great show by these guys on Hardpoint, and we'll see a little bit more of these respawn manipulations on Control, but, I'm just looking forward to this S&D coming up.
Yeah, Search and Destroy might just be a little bit more of what you were already saying, too. A lot of teams, as far as Moscow is concerned, just go with the tried and true strategy. Let's just absolutely run at them, and if it doesn't work at them over by A, then they'll try to sprint through mid. Maybe we can find an early pick through cutout wall, but then you get those nice little golden collegiate COD teams that end up really manipulating Moscow Search and Destroy. And these adaptations with no smokes and no snipers have been absolutely awesome to be able to see break through, even all the way up to the pro level of what we've been seeing through the previous week with the closure of Super Week and ahead of Major number 1 starting this weekend. But when it comes down to Moscow Search and Destroy, it's a tale of two evils. Yes, you can play with that tried and true strategy. If you look at it from the end, from Bethany's perspective, you were breaking every single setup that Iowa Hawkeyes had towards the end of that Raid Hardpoint. So maybe we can just run inside the A site on offense and break that up. Maybe we can play aggressively on defense and just overwhelm them, or we can outsmart them. And that's what either of these two teams might be able to do. Mickey, you already talked about how teams might be able to slow down the pace, and Iowa Hawkeyes, they might be able to benefit from that. But Moscow, the way the rotations work, if you don't have anybody watching through escalators, through the cutout wall defensively, those rotations through the metro side become all the more devastating. And again, no snipers, those are G8. So you better hope that your AR player is a sturdy one holding on towards that boulevard side, because if they get inside that BS and D side very early and very quickly, to break back inside, even in a 4v4 for that apartment bomb, is very tough to do for a defensive standpoint.
Yeah, and speaking on Moscow, we could sit here and talk about it all day, but it looks like we're loading into the map now. Finally able to see these guys exercise the right to be here and show exactly who's better in this situation. And as we're going to see, Hawkeyes starting here on what looks like some offense, and we're going to see them, going ahead and looking at A right here. We see Freeze running the bomb, which is pretty interesting. He was kind of the entry man when it came to those points earlier, but we saw Crayons being a lot more established. So I think, they're going to sit there and find that man to be the guy who's a little bit more forward. But Bub's the one actually closing out first here, grabbing off Loss, and Taku getting a trade. Grabbing out Loss right there is huge for these guys, because especially looking at how he got those kills last time around. So we're looking at a 3v3 situation. Bomb is still in play, and Toxic picking off 6, and Biz and these guys still alive. Looking pretty close here with that 1v2. Taku being the one-man standing, but not able to close it out like he usually does. Looking at Hardpoint, how he was earlier, but just a pretty fun engage when it comes to these two guys in that round one. Super aggressive, like we mentioned earlier.
And it was not just only aggressive, but you saw they immediately halted by that concrete planter's box. They didn't actually get close to the site itself. Toxic had a heads-up read. They didn't immediately get pushed back by a player by escalators. They saw a player by pillars and by the brick wall, what you just saw at the end of that best play of the round. But then they immediately counted heads. Mick, they were like, where's 6 at? 6 was on the long flank, the longest of flanks all the way through gold. The second that they came up through the alleyway, they got smoked. And that became the numbers advantage that Iowa Hawkeyes needed just to be able to sniff out that last player for a very clean round win. Now, Bethany looking to do the same exact thing. 3 players very aggressively looking for this A site.
Oh, man. Such a quick closeout by these guys right here. Iowa just showing that, when it comes to points, you got so many other things to work at. I mean, when it comes to straight kills, and that's all they're thinking about, if you don't have an objective to worry about, these guys are looking pretty confident when it comes to kills instead. Usually earlier, they were having to worry about a hard point, but now when they're just like, we can just kill them and end this out, they're really getting aggressive. And we see these guys, we see 2-0, 3-0. We see these guys just winning out these gunfights, and it's really surprising and nice to see. We got 2 3-0s, one by Toxic and one by Bubs, just shutting these guys out. We saw earlier Taku just being impeccable and so lost, but now they're only sitting at 0 and 1 kills overall. And these just overall, just a completely different play style from these guys. Is they're sitting there being so much more aggressive. They're sitting there, not having to think as much, and they're just being super right up front when it comes to just fragging out.
Trying to rotate immediately down the escalators will garner you a first blood for Freeze, and they're actually just going to hit this all the way through. Even though a trade does come out over by the AS and D side, that's happened over by escalators, but it means in a 3v2 situation, an offensive standpoint, Hawkeyes, they will have this B site towards their liking. We'll be able to plant this bomb. Now it's up to Biz and Lost for a retake.
Yeah, and we see how Iowa already setting up. We see 2 guys prone over there. We got Toxic, one of those top fraggers you got to look out for, as well as Freeze. These are really scary situations for these guys when you're in Bethany's shoes right now. They do pick off Bubs, but you still got Toxic alive, who's 3-1. Not anymore though, as Blizz gets him, and they have one more man to worry about. Lost picks off Freeze, and these 2 guys are still standing. And that was almost impeccable of a retake right there. To sit there, have a 2v3 situation, you got 2 men trying to hide, but it almost seems like they knew exactly where they were hiding as they sit there, just rush in, get all these kills here and there, and just get the defuse almost effortlessly, showing, nah, we're not going to let you get a point on the board just yet, Chief. We're doing pretty, and we're going to close this out as quick as possible because we got to show you what Control's made of.
You saw what that best play was all the way until that very end of the round, too. Like, it was a great round and a much-needed one for Bethany, but still, in a 3v2, I just saw 3 isolated 1v1s, is what I just saw. And I hate to be super nitpicky, but those are the rounds that I lose sleep over at the end of the day, Mick. And that just can't happen. You got a post-plant situation, you just play for numbers. You just play the post-plant. Don't give isolated 1v1s. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Now here comes Bethany again. A site, 4 players deep. They want this site, Mick.
Yeah, and we see Taku already trying to be at the front end of that because Bethany, they want to win around after that mess up last one. But Bubs on Eskies closing on a man right there, but Lost getting the trade, getting a second one on Freeze. But Crayons gets shut down, and we have 2 men on Hawkeyes, 3 men on Hawkeyes now down as Toxic is the last one standing. And this is going to be a 1v3 situation as he's trying to play it pretty slow here, and he's going to want to check as many corners as possible. But doesn't get that closeout right there as he just gets picked off as soon as he comes up those stairs.
Yeah, so the previous time that Bethany tried to take this A site quickly, it came down to Bubs, was over inside the brick half wall playing the heady. Really had a very nice pinch of things, but Bethany this time around, they immediately look towards that angle. They take down the player by pillars, push all the way through escalators, and then even in a post-plant situation, they push cleared out green. And that's just how you well execute the A site with those 2 players clearing out the escalators along the way. So not tied up. 2 rounds in sequence for both of these teams. Back to the offense here for the Hawkeyes. They're going to be toying with an immediate go-ahead of things through the Metro, but 2 players are here defensively.
Yeah, and these guys are already set up for it as the bomb gets dropped down with Freeze carrying it this time around. Lost getting a double right there. Crayons picking off a man out there in courtyard, but Toxic is this top fragger right here. He's going to find a way to get to that bomb again and get it down or just get these kills if he can because him and Crayons need to work together. They got to win this 2v3 as Toxic picks off Biz right there with a really long headshot, but Crayon sadly gets picked off over on the side. But this opens him up for that bomb right now. These guys are rotating around. He knows 2 guys are left. I mean, Toxic can maneuver around, which is what he's looking at. He can see it. He's going to move towards it, and he's probably going to go for this A site now if he can. You know, or just sit there and back up, find a way to move it around, and he runs into both of them at the same time. Bethany playing it super well right there, as you said, playing instead of those 1v1 situations, just coming up as a group saying, we need to overwhelm this guy if we do run into him. So you stay at my side, I stay at yours, 2 peas in a pod, and we'll pick this man off.
It's just like we were saying, hey, this was immediately a heads-up play. Red executed properly by Bethany on the defense. You know, Lost, you remember what you said too, Mick. You don't have to really worry about those streaks and those certain ordinances and resources on Search and Destroy. Lost is wanting to rewrite that script for you. Here, they're on 6 straight, just 1 kill away, a bomb plant and a half away from getting that artillery strike online, if not already having it, given the assist. But the attempt to play with streaks is here for Lost, and that's a very scary place to be in when you're thinking about retaking the A site. Or just taking it as a whole. But offense for Bethany now on a 3-round tangent. They're in the middle of the map. There's a trophy system, so they do have that information. It is mutual. The defensive side for Hawkeyes, so we'll be able to read this. They got players like Crayons up inside the police station. The auto mantle will almost kill him.
Yeah, we see Crayons trying to hold it out right here as best as he can. He knows he's a cornered animal right now because, you know, everybody knows exactly where he is. But meanwhile, Hawkeye's giving a little bit of breathing room to the man because they sit there and get these picks. But Deep Six is not going to let that happen because Six is going to get his own picks as Iowa sits there and wins. Or no, I'm sorry. Yeah, they win this next round. And overall, Deep Six, what he did right there wasn't exactly enough because with them set up there in the back, they read that like a book. They knew they were going for the side over in apartments. They sat there, they backed up. You know, Bethany never really taken a moment to say, okay, this probably isn't working. So they sat there, they got all these picks as quick as possible, but they didn't get the chance to move out exactly, which Iowa may be able to follow up and try and retaliate that, you know, possibly doing the same thing, but winning it out once again, because right now, you know, they did luckily shut down Lost in those streaks as we talked about earlier, because, you know, when you, especially in a search and destroy situation, especially getting something like a Predator missile, I mean, that's not just kills, that's intel, because you have these players highlighted, you know exactly where they are, and you can call that out. But overall, you know, Lost is going to get called out over here in Eskies. It's Crayons picks out Biz, but Lost gets to trade there. Overall, looking pretty good for this man so far, but we're in a 3v3, and anything can happen at this point in terms of rounds and men left on the board right now.
It freezes the last player over here over by stairs. So wisely enough, doesn't challenge furthermore, even though they are the bomb carrier. Deep Six. Oh, you really wanted to find that kill. Just can't lock things down. But that means that Hawkeyes, they are stuck by the boulevard. 40 seconds remaining. They got to make a play happen. Six is actually hitting this. Isolated 1v1 off screen versus Bubs. It's actually going to be able to get away with their life. And Lost is actually just going to hit this. It's going to give the information to the Hawkeye door. Through a couple shots.
Oh, Lost trying to get a pick right here. Picking off Toxic there. Putting this team in a situation that they want to be in. But, you know, they're on defense. Iowa only has 17 seconds left to plant. These guys have to be looking at this B-bomb right now. They're already down on it. Bethany knows exactly what's going on. They're rotating towards the side, and Iowa having almost no time to set up. They already got the call out on Bubs. They know exactly where he is. They know he was lit for a second there. Had the time to heal so far, but looks like they're going to close these guys in. They're going to rush as best as possible. The loss, getting caught isolated. Same thing as Taku. Not able to get it, but Six trades it out. Bubs grabs old Deep Six there, and we're in a 1v1 situation. We got to sit there. We got to not only get a closeout.
He's behind you.
Oh, my goodness. Man. Lost can be closeout right there. How do you rotate around in that situation? You're on defense and you're not holding down that site and you're not getting the right angles there. It's like it's such a small area. How can you miss it?
Oh man, Bubs is just running for dear life. Had no idea any information on Lost at all. Lost of the sub, just full on sprinting. Heard probably a couple slides come through there at the end. Just Bubs trying to do everything they possibly can to keep this round alive. Would have been a 2v3 regardless. Scary spot to be in. As we pass the halfway part of this search and destroy does go to the distance. It's Bethany with a round up over Hawkeyes. And a scary stat line, if you're thinking this from a Hawkeyes perspective, through 6 different times that Bethany have played this map mode combo, they are 6-0. Hawkeyes are 2-2, I do believe, but even still, be able to keep it this close versus a undefeated on this map mode combo. Gonna be feeling pretty darn good. But Bethany College are back to their old ways. They want this A site, Mick.
Yeah, and they're sitting there fighting for it as we see 2 trades coming out right off the bat. It almost feels like they're trying to set up to get this plant. Talking with the bomb, he's pushed up pretty far here for having the bomb. Really dangerous situation to be in, actually, as he's almost cornered at this point. But Lost, their top fragger right now, he sits there and gets closed out as that 3-kill streak gets shut down by these guys over on Iowa. But Talky's not going to let it go down alone. He sits there, gets a pick right there, but Free's going to trade it out. These guys are going to be in a 1v1 situation now with Biz getting the pick right there. But Iowa sits there and retaliates back and says, no, the game ain't over yet. You may have sat there, we shut down your kill streak, possibly. We sat there, shut down all your men. We're trying to sit there and get back on the board because we knew they had the lead earlier, and they knew that once they let Bethany get that advantage again, they didn't want to let it carry out because, you don't want these guys to have a 2-0 lead because you don't want to be put in a situation where you feel forced to win a match.
Tough spot there for Biz at the end. He may be the Biz the king, but he's definitely not the Biz the timing, that's for sure. That's just unfortunate, but yeah, all tied up, knotted up, 4 apiece. I'd ask for a closer range of competition between some top 5 teams from this region, but gonna have an initial scuffle through the middle of the map. It's gonna be Kranz for first blood, and now this is your flurry if you are the Hawkeyes. They are quite literally and unredundantly flying towards this B site.
Oh my goodness, we already got 3 guys in there just already trying to set up for this. As Toxic picks off 6, really giving them an advantage here. They have to close out. They also need to spread out and play these numbers as best as possible with these trades because, when you're in this man position, you want to group up. You got to sit there and get it. We see 2 guys on window, and they're already set up. Oh my goodness, man. They are not giving... They were not giving Taku a chance to breathe there. That was almost an impeccable setup for how little time they had to, go back and forth. They sat there, infiltrated that, got these picks, they got the bomb down right there, just running through mid, being in wide open view. But almost just crazy how they set it up right there on B side. Got so handled down so well, grouped up there in these pairings and made sure to have eyes on each other constantly. Now looking at a 5-4 lead and not, hopefully given a chance to where they can sit there and make this a 1-1 in the series.
Definitely love to be there. Potential to send it to a round 11 here for Bethany. It's going to have to come through by way of offense. They want to hit this through the middle of the map, but it's Bubs in the cutout wall. They're going to get information on this. They're going to eat a bullet for it, but they're going to get away with their life. But that's the info that Iowa Hawkeyes that they need, but they're not really fully committing towards this rotate. The bomb being carried by Taku is close to the B site. Now, keep in mind, Bubs is not alone. Toxic is very close towards that B bus as well, and they are going to be able to find first blood. That is massive for the defense.
And I'm over here looking at mid, looking at Bubs and Lost back and forth with each other as Taku's getting this bomb down. It's crazy how they didn't see each other there. You'd expect Bubs to move up a little bit and possibly get that peak, but, he tries and gets one on the site there. Doesn't get anything he needs to, but Deep Six, this is an advantageous point for Bethany right now. They may have that bomb down, but Lost going to run into it, but he's going to win that gunfight because this man's 9-5, 10-5 now for a reason, and Taku's going to try and follow it up. these guys lost getting another man over there on the side, but Iowa getting 2 trades out right here as Bell gets a double kill on Taku and Lost, just absolutely shutting down these 2 cracked men right now and getting that defuse and closing out this game.
Yeah, that was just a massive retake. You got a couple of ARs, so what do you do? You're not necessarily breaking inside these small areas. You saw what ended up happening the second that you try to happen here with Lost. Say even in the best play, you try to get a close range engagement. He's gonna smoke you. Same thing right here for Freeze. Yep, see you later. Hey, it was a double challenge, but it didn't really matter. Lost was shooting beams. I believe they were 11-3 there at the very end, but it still was not enough for a map win on Moscow Search and Destroy. For Bethany College Blue, at the very end, you have a couple ARs. You just hold angles. You have the information. One was inside the small room with the window. The other 2 were down by the boulevard. So you just hold the angle, expecting from the hit back through. Because obviously for the offensive team, they got to recheck the bomb after they had planted it there at B. The second that they did, they ran to the crossfire. Wonderful manipulation of the time there coming towards the end of Iowa Hawkeyes. A great explanatory way of being able to showcase the ending of a search and destroy. And now we're guaranteeing ourselves that 4th map of Hardpoint, which we will go back to Moscow, but it's going to have to go through a garrison control first to see where the swing may go for these 2 teams.
Yeah, back and forth with these guys. We saw it, over the course of the game in terms of Hardpoint on Search and Destroy. We've seen, different results each time with each team at a 1-1 now. But overall, just highlighting a one player, Lost. This man, we saw in Hardpoint, Taku did great. He does great in terms of those, respawn situations. But Lost right there, he's just consistent, it looks like. The man he got a streak inside a Hardpoint, almost had one when it came around to, Search and Destroy, where you're sitting there. You don't mind losing your life if that's what it means. But this dude just got headshots all around, just, fragging every man left and right that he gets the opportunity to. It's like he loves getting these kills here, and he's bloodthirsty. Overall, and just showing that it may have not been able to close out in that objective when it comes to Search and Destroy, but Control is a whole different thing, which you're going to have coming up here soon.
Yeah, and it certainly will, and it's some different points of both game modes, both Search and Destroy and Hardpoint. You want to be decisive, like in Search and Destroy, when you are executing, especially when it comes down to garrison control, and you also have to be able to chalk, rotate, chalk zones, and look for the defense, because when it comes down to garrison, as far as defending one zone over the other, when you do lose that initial break off for the defending team, one is a little bit easier to retake versus the other, but we have seen in previous times, all the way up to the CDL level, that an offense can snowball out of control, and that's when you are looking at players like Lost. Say, going in towards this game mode, they have an overall 2.08 KD, and that helps out things when you are looking at this from Bethany's standpoint. They have a 62.5% overall win percentage when it comes down to control. That is versus the 75% overall 6-2 for Iowa Hawkeyes. But I would even still think that when you are thinking of the overall matchup between Crans versus Lost, and even also having Not Toxic in the mix as well, this is going to be a very interesting matchup to be able to see what each team is going to be able to do with these handful of kills. Because when it came down to the rate Hardpoint, a handful of kills meant breaks, and when it comes down to control, like you were talking about there, Mick, that can mean zone captures, it can mean extra 60 seconds on the board, it can mean a life lead. All of these winning conditions can come through as long as you do know what each one of these kills end up meaning in these breakoffs.
Yeah, and I completely agree with you. When it comes down to control, there's so many different factors to consider. You got, you do have the lives and you have the points. You have to manipulate both of those as best as possible. And especially on this garrison map, with those 2 points being so close to each other, it almost feels exactly, in my opinion, it feels almost like checkmate, because they're both still so open and connected in a kind of way to where it's not as easy for offense with both things being so connected. Defenders can make their way to one side to the other so easily, especially on this map, where, when you're playing defense, you have a wide open shot on one of those objectives. It feels like you just run the lights. You can sit there and see a man and get a lockdown on it overall. And it's just so back and forth on this map, especially with that other side being on the tank and right there by another spawn. Overall, it's just, it's so open, Garen, with the avenues that you have down the center and things of the likes of that. You really have to be on the lookout for those lives, but you also have to find a way, usually, to win these control matches, to put the defenders on their toes. You need to allocate your men to be back on A and on B, then hopefully get in those situations where you win those gunfights so you can lock out a point. So we're going to see these guys already being, in the front hand. Lost just popping off with an SK-74U like usual, and it looks like they're already kind of leaning over towards this B site right now, because that's what looks like to be the most convenient for them. No guys really looking at A, but we do see Lost kind of running around like a little wild card.
I just wanted min-map control, and again, you narrowly won the initial break-off. It's not enough to be able to sack the B zone. You can even see still Biz just trying to keep themselves alive. Be able to find a kill might mean some progress over towards B, but they will lose their life here. Nope. Will be traded on out, but still no progress. The clock will just be stopped at 50 seconds for just a little bit of time here, but middle map control has just swiftly gone back in the way of the Hawkeyes for the time being.
And we do see, Taku over there trying to hold A side as best as possible. They're going to be going back and forth, but overall, Freeze trying to get this control over here on A side, get that down a little bit, try and hold it out. It's weird how, in my opinion, I don't see why Taku just didn't sit there and capitalize off that. The man got on the point, then he got off and started just running back and forth. What do you think the thought process behind that was? Because, he could have gotten probably, a whole tick right there, stalling the clock a little bit.
He just wanted to bait out at least an easier kill, all right, rather than just not getting the information. This is just what happens, Mick, when you lose the initial break-off and then you don't win a gunfight for the next two in convincing form. You don't have the information coming off of your spawn, but here's what happens when you do win a gunfight, Mick, in convincing fashion, is that Bethany, they stack the B zone with 3 players deep. Taku pushes on forward towards the brick, and that means an extra 60 seconds will come through for Bethany. Lives are even for the time being, and you also have some information trying to be fed over inside a brick, but gunfight's not going to come through for Bethany, so they're going to have to wait for the respawns before they can try to break inside the Z zone.
And we do see Iowa doing a really good job holding down right here. We see Buzz picking off loss, huge for these guys because they're always scared of him because of how crazy he is and how consistent we've seen him so far. But right now, we're going to see these guys over here in electrical trying to push as hard as possible right now. But Iowa, it seems like they got A shut down pretty well right here. We got, a guy right here in the corner. We got Toxic just, being ready for it. And we got also other guys just trying to set up. It also just seems like right now, like we got these guys and Bethany trying to hide it out, getting ready to pick these spawns as best as they can. But Iowa retaliating, getting around there on the edge as Freeze picks off Loss and Crayons picks off 6. We see there's all kind of picks around, but there's only 20 seconds left on the clock. So you can't lock these guys on spawns because it's pretty unlikely you sit there and get 14 kills within the course of 15 seconds. So you need to be looking at that objective right now if you're Bethany.
Even more so than that, you might not just be looking at the objective. To be able to scrape by with an offensive round win would be great, and they will be able to stop the clock just here. But these kills, again, Garrison is so hard to be able to win offensive rounds, but if this gets to around 5, all these kills are still good for Bethany, but they're stacked here on the zone. First second progress is going to be good. Break attempts is coming through.
And we see these guys trying. They're almost funneling in like I usually call it. We see Crayons being the next one, but he's not a victim like the rest of these guys until he gets to that tank right there getting shot off by Deep 6. But overall, we see them just trying to make a collective push at this time with Freeze being at the front hand, but he's going to sit there and get peeked out, and he's going to get picked off by Bits. We're going to see Loss getting kills right here, picking out Toxic as well. And 6, just them holding it down really well and closing out that round. In all honesty, I kind of doubted them, but the fact they closed it out with 3.7 seconds and holding it down like that, that's intimidating if I'm on the defensive side to be shut out like that in my own spot.
That entire offensive round win was hinging off of just one Deep 6 winning that 1v1. Crayons almost found 3 to break back inside that zone. Yes, the reinforcements were close for Bethany Blue, but even still, Hawkeyes almost broke inside that setup that Bethany, after finding those handful of kills in, came through a very explosive moment. That round was almost just completely dusted away, and Hawkeyes, I felt like we were in the same boat as us, Mick, that we're going to be able to get away with that defensive round win, but a little too cocky. You stretch a little too far forward, you don't win those gunfights, and you're spawning so deep. Bethany find their way inside green, an offensive round win. Yeah, you are on your back heel, or I guess your talon if you are the Hawkeyes for the time being, because now you got to win an offensive round.
Yeah, and we see them doing so far a pretty good job of doing on this offense. They sit there, they got a couple picks, they got a little bit of a line advantage going, not too much though, but overall just holding down this B side, being pretty consistent, having a guy having a guy there, just choking these guys out as we see Taku being, choked up in the vents right now, a little bit too much dust for this man to breathe overall, but we got Lost sitting there trying to retaliate, get there on the point, close out a little bit, but Taku's also going to be there to help the man out. Iowa may be looking at a little possibly going for the A side as we see, Toxic and Freeze possibly looking at it, but we see Lost getting picked over there on the side, opening up B once again, but Taku's there to follow it up.
You got players just on so many pinches right now. You saw Taku over by Caution. You got Biz just always trying to reinforce through the vents. One tick of progress was gained over towards B, but this immediately shifted the focus for Hawkeyes over towards A. Again, for Bethany, they have all the middle of the map, but A progress is a scary place to be, so Deep Sixes are going to try to stop this. They find the initial kill. There's still one player to be able to dealt with back here. They will be triple chowed. They will be dealt with quite handily. So 2 ticks in total between 2 zones. We're only looking at 30 seconds. Lives are close, but Hawkeyes, they need to break inside one of these zones.
Yeah, and they only have a tick on each one of them, so they kind of still have an even playing field on both of them. They have to sit there and still make this decision. It's a really hard decision to be in, where you have to sit there and figure out where to go, because we do see them trying to stack B side, as hard as possible right here, trying to get it in. But it seems like Bethany's catching on right here. So we see these guys, we see Biz picking off Bubs, Crown trying to make a push, but Six not letting that happen. These guys are just going to close it out. And, that's the round you're looking at overall. When you sit there, the fact that Blue, they can hold that out, offense is huge. Whenever you sit there and can win a win around of that, it's usually defense is pretty easy when it comes to control. All you have to do is just, exactly where these guys are. You're trying to shoot them and make sure they get off that point. But when you give them an offensive round, that's where you're sitting there really scared, and that they have that advantage. Going forward. And with this, we just see Bethany just clearing it up right now, which is super scary when you're in Hawkeye situation, seeing how they've been doing so well overall leading up to this point.
And again, it's just Garrison control. You lose that initial break off for the offensive team. The defense, like Bethany, you saw subs push up towards Dark. AR's on the catwalk. Yeah, that's a scary spot to be in, to try to even make your way towards one of these zones. But now, again, you got to win this defensive round of your Hawkeyes. Bethany, got to be feeling pretty darn breezy coming off the previous 2 rounds. They will find themselves in the B zone, damn near uncontested, but even if they were contested, they lost the gunfight so convincingly that Bethany just had the middle of the map towards their liking. They haven't even lost a single life yet, Nick. Not one.
Yeah,
not a single one.
And then we see even Lost just holding it on his own right there, pushed up almost to these spawns, just locking it down, throwing the trophy system, making himself a home. But you got Freeze breaking and entering right now. But it's okay, because Taku's trying to get that point control, as they've already locked down this B site so quickly. And Iowa trying to catch on as quick as possible to get a point on the board, because if they don't, this game is closed out right here. But they're going to sit there, do the best as possible to kind of make their control back over, get that mid-map control going, because they got to lock down this A side. Otherwise, it's going to be over right now. Taku not going to let that happen, though, trying to break through, but getting shut down by Crayons. And we see one guy over there. We see Bubs on the point, but, we got to look at these guys on Bethany. They're going to be trying to kill this man pretty quickly. And Deep Six may be the one to do it as he gets a double.
Yeah, and again, those 2 kills open up the middle of the map, then 3 more kills open up further into bricks, and then you get the trade over towards the A zone, stack it, second tick of progress is here. Hawkeyes, you gotta try to contest it, but you are just working your way inside the blunder that is M4s and some machine guns. Bethany, College Blue, disgusting on Garrison control, close it out 3-0. They get the swing map mode combo. They now lead the series 2-1.
Yeah, that's a tough situation to be in. Overall, when you're looking at these guys, they sat there, they did lose out, that whole search. They tried their best, but right now, looking at these respawn modes once again, especially when you can establish yourself on offense so well, like I said, that's usually the more tough situation to be in, and especially being such an overwhelming force that you can just run into a site and not even have to worry about allocating to one side or the other. The fact that you can just flood in there and win these gunfights, and you see Lost just making himself at home and you're close to your spawn and trying to shut you down in bricks. I mean, that's a situation when you're in Iowa. It's like, we need to take care of Lost first. This man's gotten so many streaks on every single mode so far, almost getting in search and destroy. Like, we need to get rid of this dude or we're in trouble. But even then, you had the guy likes of Deep Six getting all these doubles. I mean, the whole team as a collective force, they were going positive. So, I mean, tickets wasn't even a worry for them. They sat there at this point, they're like, just worry about that point. We're going to win the gunfights. Who cares? So, overall, doing a great job closing out 2 offensive rounds. I mean, it's almost impeccable to look at.
Yeah, the first one was just by the skin of their very, very end of that round. It was just so close. It was about 10 seconds left on the A zone. And
it was only 3 they had before they actually got on that point. It was 3.7.
And they got the offensive round win. But the second one was just so damn convincing, much like how their defensive round win, where it was just, again, the first initial break off, clean gunfight. They didn't even lose a single life until the B zone was fully captured on their second offense. And if that's just not convincing enough for you, I don't really know what else I could spell it out for you at the end of that garrison control. But this Bethany College squad definitely seems that they are a bargain for a good team within this region. And again, going in towards split number 2, where you're going to be inside of the same division for the likes of Ottawa Black, Uni Gold, Illini Blue. I mean, this is going to be a very the competition was already stiff enough for you to be able to or stick your neck out inside a very tough season of college COD already. But again, if you want to be able to set yourself apart from the already stiff competition, this might just be the step in the right direction for Bethany College. So now you move over to this Moscow Hardpoint, where if you are Bethany College, you are 1-0. On the other side of things for University of Iowa, the Hawkeyes, they are 2-0. But as far as Hardpoint is concerned, you go back to the raid Hardpoint at the top of this match, Mick. It was very handshaky. 20s for 20s, back and forth, setups for setups, breaks for breaks on the raid hardpoint. But inside, at the end of the second set, every single time that Hawkeyes wanted to get themselves set up, BCSW Blue, they just came running in like a freight train, broke them up, and within about the first 10 seconds of each hardpoint, they got an initial 40 seconds, and they just ran away with the game. And if there's one hardpoint map that can be more punishing like that, it is Moscow Hardpoint, given how the rotations work and the line of sights that you have to work with when you do have those spawns.
Yeah, and overall, Iowa, looking at how they performed in Hardpoint, they had the potential to bring this back by some chance and even it out because, they weren't too far behind when it came down to it the first time. And, we saw they did really well in Moscow when it came to search and destroy. It was pretty close, but they had to find a way to kind of pull it out in terms of rotations and everything. So, they had their chance to fly. But, leading up here, they may need a little time, get themselves a little break and, give their wings a little break overall, get some time for rest. So, we will be getting that opportunity as well as casters and viewers because we're going to be going to about a 3-minute break here coming up really quickly because, I think these teams, with how close this competition is, they need some time to collaborate and figure out how to step things up a little more if you're in Iowa situation. So, overall, it looks like we're going into a break here, and we'll be right back with some more COD. And with no time at all, we are going right here into Moscow Hardpoint. These guys, we saw Bethany do it earlier on Hardpoint, but we also saw Iowa do it with Search and Destroy on Moscow. So, overall, we're excited to see what's happening with almost no time being wasted going into this next matchup with these guys trying to fight for this courtyard.
Again, it mostly just comes down to wanting to break through P1 if you are the likes of Iowa Hawkeyes, who would really love to be able to get the setup for P2, but the initial break-off starting to look like the garrison control over again here, brother. They immediately just wiped the floor with the Hawkeyes, just nearly unscathed. Actually, they don't even lose a single gunfight. And they just are able to set themselves up wonderfully for the opening 20 seconds.
Yeah, and Hawkeyes, we see Freeze right here trying to get a peek on Biz over there, but Biz, we saw him get that double right off the bat. Closing, getting another one right there, just shutting these guys down when it comes down to it. You got Taco over their side getting a trade, getting a pick right there, but we see Iowa trying to come around here on the side, but Biz right now, this man's on a 4-kill streak, and they're holding down this P1 pretty solidly, holding it down as Biz gets a 5th right there, only 2 kills away from the kill streak here. It is super early threat here with only 4 seconds left on this one, as they're already rotating to P2 now with it being so close.
Yeah, Freeze did a heads-up play, broke things through green, but Biz immediately comes right back in as soon as P2 does pop to set up for the initial time, and when here comes the initial break attempt for Hawkeyes. They want to break inside P2 earlier rather than later. They find the initial kills, but again, these spawns coming through for BSCUW Blue, they are just so damn close, and you're not getting in here anytime soon. Now just 30 seconds, last attempt to get inside of P2. Unsuccessful for the Hawkeyes, and now they're just going to have to chalk it again. They are down by 60-some-odd points, Mick. And they're going to have to chalk it and just hope to God they don't get broken up inside of P3.
Yeah, we did see them sitting there trying to bust in as hard as possible with these guys over on the Hawkeyes. They sat there, already had a man on there. They had Freeze there earlier, but he didn't get to follow it up as exactly how he wanted to. Because, Biz, he was kind of ticked off. He got that kill streak shut down. Sat there, got another double on point. He's now sitting at a 2-kill streak once again, trying to find his way to get around. On to 3 now, and he's trying to scrap up these points as they rotate to the next one. trying to go ahead and get the early establishment. And once again, they have these spawns. When you're looking at as Iowa right now, you need to be stressing that right now because you sit there, you didn't have them for P2. You didn't really get that control on P1. You got to sit there and, you got to fight. You got to break out those talons like you mentioned and, start scratching because you need to fight right now because Lost, he's sitting there getting these doubles. He's shutting people down just as hard as Biz is and just showing up right now with a 117-1 advantage right now.
I'm disgusted. It's the end of the raid hard point all over again. Every single time in Hawkeyes, like I was talking about the end of P2, just like hope to God you don't get broken up for P3. And the second that P3, it wasn't even fully popped yet. They get broken up immediately. They still have the close spawns, but Lost is still here. You're fighting for the back of 10 seconds. Now you just got to rotate towards you. You're down by 140 seconds. Just get out of here. Fly out of here, Hawkeyes. Just get the hell out of here. Taco is just going to double up. It doesn't matter, Mick, anymore. I'm packing up. It's a 150-point lead. This is just... Oh, God. Can we even show this? Is this okay?
I think we should be allowed to. I know birds can't pray, but I'm sure they're trying to find a way to angle their wings right now for that little formation because these guys, they need a miracle to come back from this kind of deficit right now. I mean, you got, oh my goodness, Bethany's just on the point. They get the last seconds of one point, they get the first seconds of the next, and just continuously all the way through. Iowa at this point, with Lost shutting down and getting a double right there, Crayon's finally finding a trade, trying to break into that point, but these guys just... I mean, at this point, you can't exactly be looking to find that point control because, I mean, it's been hard to get so far. You just got to find a way to contest it and slow this game down and allow your team a chance to talk because apparently they didn't do too much of that during the break because they have to find a way to bring this out right now. I mean, the score deficit keeps on getting greater and greater, and we see Lost, we see Biz, we see all these guys just getting constant kills, just shutting these guys out. I mean, heck, even look at Taku, 13-5 now. I mean, overall, just a great showing from, I mean, where did that search game go? Did they forget the layout of the map in the meantime?
I don't even know. I mean, now for Hawkeyes, you got to replicate what just happened to you. And now you got to be on the giving end. Just don't be on the receiving. Deep 6 trying to contest the P1 site for the time being, but P2 spawns are being threatened to be broken up. And again, you have 60 seconds once you go inside the initial setup, and it's starting to look like it was initially just close off the initial first set of hills. But again, once Hawkeyes, they get the initial setup, when the time is absolutely right, Bethany, they break in, they flip around the map, and although it's haywire for the time being, and you got 2 offset spawns that come through for Bethany over by P3, this is about to be absolutely blasphemy. Unless Hawkeyes hold on towards this P2 setup. They do find the kills, so they should have the initial time. Get your gutty up, no pumps!
Overall, man, like I'm in the shoes of Hawkeyes right now. I'm really trying to root for them because I mean these guys, we saw them on P1. They actually held down a point. They sat there, had all that momentum from Bethany, but somehow Hawkeyes found a way to get there on P1 and get themselves established. Seeing these guys like Crayons, finding some kills here and there, finally finding his stride a little bit. Toxic as well. But, Biz the King shutting him down and, going back and forth. And these guys are now trying to fight for P2 as Lost and Biz are once again on that point. Biz having 2 minutes and 55 seconds, 19-9, 3 kill streak. Lost being his side man right now, backing him up, saying, you can take care of him on the point. I'll make sure they don't get to it because, I mean, you deserve your spot as king right now. I'll give you my gamer tag after this. I'll let you run as Lost the King because this is crazy. I mean, these dudes, it's almost impeccable the way they're setting up for these points. They're getting themselves on, getting a little bit of trades right there. Taku trying to follow up, get those doubles right now, closing out this P3 and already having themselves an early lead that looks letting the time run out and just trying to lock down these spawns and let the rest of the men go in because Taku doing a pretty good job with this border control right now.
I mean, we got streaks. It doesn't even matter. It's 243-43. You got 200-point lead here. Hey, Deep 6 at 8-11. Everybody else got 20 kills. Deep 6, what the hell are you doing? I mean, someone didn't obviously get the memo, but Hawkeyes, they are here. I'm going to at least get themselves inside of P3. 2 more players left alive. They have close spawns, so they're able to reinforce. But every little foot, every toe on this point for Bethany is a dip toe.
Oh, my goodness.
250-49. 50-point club. And Yeah, the rate hard point was 250 and 195, but that was not even any sort of a resemblance as far as how that Moscow hard point played out. I mean, again, Hawkeyes every single time they got a setup. They were initially there for P3 in the first set. I'm sure you remember because that hardpoint map was only maybe about 3 minutes long in total, but still.
Yeah.
Nevertheless, every single time they were initially set up, they got broken. They had the initial
Yeah.
P2. Yes, they were already down by 140 points, but again, this is the point brought on home. They were initially set up for P2. They were spread across P1. They overextended. They lost the gunfights. They gave up the 50-yard line. They spawn over by P3. And then again, Bethany, they break inside P2. It was just every single time that Hawkeyes had the initial setup to get a lengthy amount of time, they just get broken up and they couldn't offer the same break attempts from the submachine gun level that was just being put on. I mean, it was an absolute clinic coming out from Lost and Taku, the SMG duo coming out from Bethany. That was just, oh, it's gross. I feel like I need a shower.
Well, I mean, I feel like Hawkeyes, the Dawn commercial with the duck, how they use the Dawn soap to wash it off. I feel like that's what Hawkeyes need. They need some Dawn soap to wash all that oil out of their wings because it felt like they weren't even moving during this. They didn't get the chance to. I mean, Bethany was just shutting them down from every single corner. It felt like overall, just on every single kind of, back and forth. But man, it's just, I feel like, overall, they're still, they still only have, that's going to be the third loss overall. So, I mean, it's not impossible. I mean, they're still in a good standing overall, but they really got to work on these hard points going forward. I'm sure when you look at that, I'm not sure how much there is. I mean, you explained everything right up front of what they need to do next time around. But, I mean, going forward, when you sit there and look at hard point, I mean, you need to find some get some scrims going on every single map for hardpoint going forward. Because I mean, Ray, you're doing fine, but that was you. I can't even explain it. You have to sit there. You can't let that happen to you, especially when you're competing at this level. When you're in the league of the split right now, this is your last game of the season. We had such a good back and forth going here, and us as casters, we were praying something happened, but I mean, Bethany just knocking them out, just shooting them right out the sky. They got 4 birds with 1 stone. I mean, that was insane.
Yeah. So, I mean, the Swedes will end up coming off victorious and feeling pretty darn comfortable as far as the head-to-head is concerned if it ends up coming down towards the end of the season. But both these teams will already qualify to be in the top 5 team for this North Central division for split number 2. So they will join the likes of Illini Blue, who are undefeated right now in Division B for North Central. DePaul Esports, CUW Esports 7-1 respectively between those two teams. Ottawa Black, who are undefeated within their division already, and Unique Gold. Both these teams have already lost to those two teams within this first split. But yeah, they're already feeling pretty darn comfortable going in towards the next split, but you definitely want to be able to have your work cut out for you. Not like college was already a barn burner within its own self, but you got college playoffs right around the corner, and if you can keep on showing these strengths, then you might just be looking at a couple of dark horses ahead of that, because again, these two teams are not within the top 25 overall power rankings for CCL so far, but they were able to showcase some strengths. The Swedes coming out from Bethany College a little bit more than the Hawkeyes. Yeah,
so I mean, with that, it's just I can't really capitalize off anything at this moment. I'm still just trying to. I'm still on hold with 911 right now. So I mean, I'm trying to sit there and help these guys out as much as possible. But in the meantime, while I'm waiting on that phone call to go through, we got a great game going on over on the Alpha channel. They're in Game 5 right now. It's a little Texas showdown going on. So we're gonna sit there. We're gonna go ahead and close it out here. It's been a pleasure casting with Prosper, but that's not it. We'll see you over here in Game 3 when it comes to Colorado Black versus Colorado Frost. But in the meantime, it's been a pleasure. You got any closing words, Prosper?
Well, I'm just excited to see the very end for this entire division. And again, there's a lot of dark horses spread around the entirety. And as we do come to a close, as far as this region is concerned with these 10 teams, it's going to get shaken up all the more so and going in through the future. For split number 2, I'm very interested to see the consistency of these teams going forward.
Yeah, so we'll see you guys in a little bit. Don't worry, we're not going anywhere. We'll be watching along with y'all, but we're just going to be watching the Alpha stream for a little bit, and we'll be right back.